All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Blood Will Tell by Dana Stabenow. This is book number 6 in her Kate Shugak Alaskan murder mystery series, which I am reading. I have all the books. I think there's about 25 of them. We are up to number 6 now. This one came out in 1996, so this series has been going for quite some time. Let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. It's probably one of my favorites of the group of 25. I mean, it's got the iconic Alaskan image of the totem pole and the trees and the mountain range. It just looks cool. And as you can see, it kind of follows the theme. And I got the first 3 or 4 books up here in the series sitting right there, and it kind of fits the theme of the whole thing. So the series as a whole looks really good, really sharp on the shelves. And I'm enjoying the hell out of this series. You know, I'm glad I kind of came across it and started reading it, because, you know, if you followed my channel for any length of time, or if you've watched any of my reviews of the previous 5 books, you know I mentioned that I have lived in Alaska. I lived there as a youngster for a lot of years, and these books take me back full of nostalgia. Just the mention of different names and places and events that happen. I'm right there. I've been there, done that. So anyway, speaking of been there, done that, this opening scene is a confrontation with a bull moose. The bull moose, as we know in Alaska, these bull moose are like huge, like 20 feet tall almost. And I'm not exaggerating. They are big. Now, this bull moose happens to be in the velvet, which is, you know, their antlers turn bright red, and they have to scrape that red velvet off of their antlers. And I've seen it happen, and it looks like their antlers are just covered in blood. That's how red it is. And I've seen the bull moose in the wild in Alaska scraping that stuff off of their antlers against the trees. And she runs into our main character, Kate Shugak, who is a police in Alaska. She lives out kind of in the wild. It's the last frontier. So what I'm going to talk about here in a second is going to be, some of you are not going to like this, but let me just explain it. This is what goes on in Alaska. Like I said, it's the last frontier. People hunt in Alaska. They hunt moose. However, when they hunt moose, they catch salmon. However, when they catch the salmon, they use the moose and the salmon as food. They use every single bit of it. The natives do. The Alaskan citizens do. Everybody does. My father did. I went on moose hunts with him. And so opening up, we get this beautiful scene of this big bull moose scraping the velvet off of its antlers. I've seen that. I've been on moose hunts with my father, so I know what Kate Shugak is doing here. She has a 30-06 rifle. This is part of her food storage program, is going out and getting moose. She shoots the moose, of course, and then she skins it and uses all the meat and freezes the meat and all this stuff. Now, this reminded me, just the scene of the 30-06 and her shooting the moose was similar to an experience I had in Alaska as a kid with my father on a moose hunt, where we were walking through some thick woods, and some of the other hunters were flushing out a bull moose towards us. And the bull moose charged us, came out of the woods, charged us. I was just a little kid. But my dad also hunted moose with a 30-06, just like Kate Shugak. He, of course, fired on the moose. He emptied the clip out. And that moose kept charging. That moose just kept charging us. And it was kind of like that scene from Dances with Wolves, where the buffalo is charging that young Indian, that young Native American, and Kevin Costner shoots it, and it just the buffalo just kind of falls at the kid's feet right before he tramples the kid. That's what it was like. This moose was charging us, and my dad was just firing away, and the last bullet took the moose down, and it fell right at our feet. It just fell right at our feet. As a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. You know, later in life, my dad has talked about the scenario, and he's just like, yeah, that was the most scared I've ever been in my life. But anyway, just a similar experience. So these books really take me back to my time in Alaska. I mean, she talks about places I've been, like the Copper River. And even in this book specifically, she's talking about even the characters have names, unique names of people that were my neighbors in Fairbanks, Alaska. Like, there's a character in here named Alana, Alana. Alana. The last time I heard that was because my next door neighbor in Alaska was Alana Shawcroft. I'm like, oh, I've heard that name since I was in Alaska, and she's got it here. And then Olga is another character in this book. Olga, the last Olga, very sort of Norse Scandinavian name. I get it. There's probably a lot of Olgas, but the only Olga I've ever known personally was my Mormon bishop in Alaska. His wife was named Olga, and they're still friends of mine today. So anyway, these books really, this book specifically, I was just like, every single thing that she brings up in these books, I'm like, I've been there, I've done that, I've experienced that. By the way, then this is an aside, nothing about this book. If you want to watch an interesting video I posted years and years ago, just type in Durfee, Alaska, moose hunt, and army tank, and you'll see actual video footage of my family hunting moose in Alaska on an army tank. I'm not making that up. Just do it. If you've got this far in the video and you heard me say that, leave in the comments that I heard you talk about hunting moose with an army tank in Alaska, and I went and watched the video, and tell me what you thought. Okay, so this book specifically, Ekaterina, so Kate Shugak is our police officer who solves murders in Alaska. Ekaterina is her grandma. Now, her grandma approaches her and says, there's been, in Nanilta, which is the main town that a lot of these stories are set in Nanilta, there's this tribal native association that kind of works for environmental causes and whatever. Well, Ekaterina, the grandmother, she's a tribal elder in this group, and just in general, very well respected in Alaska as a native Alaskan, and one of the elders of the tribe. She comes to her daughter, the police, and she says, two people of this Native American association I'm a part of are dead. We don't know whether it's coincidence, accident, murder, but you need to come solve it. And as the case goes on, we find out that there's like a tract of 50,000 miles of untouched forest in Alaska. A drop in the bucket. For Alaska's so big, but a drop in the bucket. But a big swath of forest that some people want to use and extract resources from, like an infinite. I mean, it's the resources that are there are infinite. We'd never run out. It's just, but then there's of course the environmental angle. Like, do we really want to do this with this pristine, untouched natural zone? Do we want to just start going in and mining and digging and drilling and all this stuff? All of this kind of plays against the two deaths. Were they murder? Would somebody kill? Is this land worth killing for? That's kind of the bulk of the plot of this murder mystery. And it all sort of just revolves around that 50,000 square miles of forest. And just great. Absolutely great. I'm liking these books. I think I liked, this is book 6. I will tell you, I think I liked book 5 slightly more than this one because book 5 was actually set in Fairbanks where I lived. But this one was certainly cool. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10 stars.